So Daniel Kinahan is out of options. He lost his final appeal and now is coming back to Ireland as they prepare for a 6-week trial with thousands of documents. It was a $5 million reward for a long time, but Daniel Kinahan has spoke out in this video for the first time and has a full podcast coming with James English soon. But he believes that he will not get a fair trial. He said the Kinahan organised crime group has an estimated net worth of assets between 1.5 billion, but law enforcement has said that's been built on international cocaine arms and money laundering operations. They have financial assets and front companies and property holdings linked to the family in jurisdictions like Dubai have faced sweeping freezes following the US sanctions and international asset crackdowns. The authorities include the US Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, that placed a $5 million reward on information leading to the arrest or the financial disruption.
So Gavin, Daniel Kinahan is expected to be transported then on the government jet under armed Garda escort.
That certainly seems to be the plan, Colette, although of course understandably the Irish Air Corps, the Prison Service and Garda Síochána all remaining somewhat tight-lipped around the exact procedure that might now be followed. But this is not an unprecedented development. There had previously, under a relatively new extradition treaty between Ireland and the United Arab Emirates, previously been the extradition of another suspected senior figure in the Kinahan organised crime group. That was Sean McGovern, who at the time of his repatriation to Ireland was transported on an official Defence Forces aircraft which had to make multiple refuelling stops along the way. Now, because it is generally considered to be inappropriate or somehow unfeasible to use commercial air services to try and transport people in these sorts of circumstances, there is likely to be some degree of ministerial air transport, and it's likely to be the relatively new government jet, which has only been in service for a number of months, but which at least has a longer air range and would at least allow for the possibility of direct flights from Dublin or from Baldonnel directly to Dubai without needing to have any commercial stops for refuelling anywhere along the way.
So Kinahan was arrested in Dubai, we see, in April 2026 on an Irish arrest warrant. Shortly after it was issued, he'd lived openly in Dubai for about a decade following the 2016 Regency Hotel attack in Dublin, an assassination attempt targeting him over the Hutch and Kinahan feud.
Daniel Kinahan, who's in his late 40s, was arrested 2 days ago in Dubai on foot of an arrest warrant that was issued by the High Court here in connection with allegations over serious organised crime offences. The extradition process, my understanding is going to take some time. Daniel Kinahan is being held in custody in Dubai, and we saw this follows on from the success of extraditing Sean McGovern here last summer.
He's been fighting extradition but lost his final appeal in Dubai around the 30th of July 2026. The Irish authorities and Departments of Justice and Foreign Affairs are preparing for his transfer, expected in the coming weeks. About a 6-week time frame is being reported, although no exact timeline is finalised, and he remains in custody in Dubai in the meantime. The charges he's facing carry a potential life sentence. A senior associate, Sean McGovern, described as a close member of the Kinahan cartel to Daniel Kinahan, previously extradited, pleaded guilty to related direct offences tied to the same feud period and received a 24-year sentence. Prosecutors view Kinahan's case as a higher level to this.
The sentencing today of Sean McGovern is significant in holding to account a key person who was engaged in directing the activities of a violent criminal organisation engaged in a campaign of ruthless murder and violence which impacted so negatively on our communities and on Ireland's national reputation.
What they're alleging is Kinahan directed the cartel's operations, particularly during the bloody Hutch-Kinahan feud, roughly between 2015 to 17-18. The feud is linked to around 18 murders in Ireland and Spain. Evidence is expected to cover the period, mainly 2015 to 17. There's murders, attempted murders and links to violence in the feud, such as the murder of Noel Duck Egg Kerwin, a Hutch associate, and the alleged attempted murder of Gary the Monk Hutch in Lanzarote on New Year's Eve 2015. Plots involving many different related incidents, encrypted messages, including BlackBerry communications, later accessed via Dutch experts, and supporting material. It's going to be phone data, GPS trackers, CCTV surveillance, featuring heavily in this case, similar to the McGovern case. There's going to be drug trafficking, money laundering, firearm offences and overall direction of the group's activities. The prosecutors plan to present evidence that Kinahan had an unparalleled leadership role, controlling senior figures. A large 200-page dossier outlining these allegations was provided to the Dubai authorities before the arrest. The Irish Prison Service has purchased a new bomb-proof, bulletproof escort van to be used for criminal gang leaders, terrorists and other high-risk inmates ahead of the arrival of Daniel Kinahan back to Ireland. The new vehicle is expected to be used to transfer the 48-year-old from court when he returns to face trial. He was arrested back in April. It's expected to last at least 6 weeks, but they get through all these 200 pages. Logistical and security arrangements are being made to bring him back to Ireland from Dubai in terms of air travel as well.
That effectively means now that any course of appeal for him has been fully exhausted, and there is now no alternative other than for the authorities in the UAE to have him handed back to the Irish authorities. There has been ongoing engagement between the Irish authorities and An Garda Síochána and their counterparts in the UAE to try and make sure that this does fully operationalise in the event of any of those appeals being fully exhausted. We understand those plans are now in the way, but there could possibly be a delay of up to 6 weeks before Daniel Kinahan is transferred back into the custody of An Garda Síochána and repatriated to Irish soil. There is a certain degree of bureaucracy that has to be undertaken, and of course the security arrangements need to be put in place as well, not alone within Garda Síochána, with the prison service in the event that Daniel Kinahan is then committed to prison upon his arrival back to Ireland. He is expected to face trial before the Special Criminal Court on organised crime charges when he does return to Ireland, but that could be any time between now and the next 6 weeks. And we understand this lunchtime that there are no immediate or imminent plans to send a government jet over to Dubai to have him return to Ireland.
The prison service has also upgraded its security around its prisons and escorts in advance of his arrival. The van was bought second-hand in the UK. It has a ballistic protection to stop powered handguns and assault rifle wounds. It has a floor and panel reinforcements designed to deflect minor explosions and improvise explosive threats. Access to the vehicle is specifically controlled with overlocking interior control doors and two-stage entry-exit system. The tyres are designed so they can run flat. The suspension has been reinforced and the fuel tank is tampered-proof. He will remain in custody in Dubai until he's handed over to the Irish police. He's expected to escort it back the same way as Sean McGovern was extradited back in May of last year. He was flown over in the Air Corps 295 to Dubai to pick him up. It stopped to refuel in France and in Cyprus and on both legs of the journey. Daniel Kinahan is only one of the 3 leaders of an organised crime group. Over the following years, the government in Ireland have built relationships with international law enforcement agencies in Europe and the Middle East and the United States to bring them down. There's been lots of rumours and allegations put on his name, but for the first time in a long time, James English is actually going to release an interview where we're going to hear from Daniel Kinahan. And he put out a little snippet of this interview where Daniel Kinahan seems to think everyone's got the wrong impression of him, and it will be interesting to hear this in full.
There's so many things that's happened, and there's so much dirty things that I think it's time it has to start to come out now. Regarding the Regency, it took over 20 minutes for them to respond. There was no police there. They're talking about on a big mafia boss and this cartel, imaginary cartel that they created. And there's no police at the Regency when there's a publicised boxing event on there. There's 4 different reporters there ready to take pictures. Police didn't respond 2 minutes away, and the police didn't respond for over 20 minutes. Like I said, people need to connect the dots now and start looking into this. Because once they unravel what's happening there, it's going to unravel, and there's going to be a snowball effect for all other corruption that's been going on over the last 2, 3, 4 decades.
There was a boxing event on, but there was also a lot of professional photographers there straight after it happened, even capturing the people that did it. There's some good points he's making. I'm sure Daniel Kinahan will be able to get the best lawyers. I know a lot of his money's been frozen through the Kinahan cartel and targeting them and their business dealings that are legit. He should be able to get a good legal team through connections he has.
And I don't like to be speaking about someone. The guy's family probably don't want to be listening to things about being brought back up about the man. But I think it's relevant in the situation that's happening now. And it's all connected to a lot of different things, you know. Mm-hmm. And I seen him actually pulling the gun from the back of his waist and just pulling his hand up. And then I just ran through the door.
You must have came across a lot of interesting characters. Like, who is the most interesting you've ever came across?
I'd say one of the most interesting people I've spoke to just for a short time and was Guy Ritchie, without a doubt. I believe I haven't been an angel in my life, and I don't think anyone's been an angel. And the person who points the finger has 3 fingers pointing back at themselves, you know. So I don't want to play like I'm a martyr because people is like, he's innocent, he's a conspiracy theorist. But yeah, I believe that in a way I'm a scapegoat. And anybody that looks into this so-called feud that they say that they've created, then you'll see things yourself if someone has the time to look into it, you know.
How can the media get away? How can they get away with printing your name every other week in the Irish press?
This will be probably the highest profile trial we've seen in Ireland. It's 6 weeks scheduled at court. I'm going to break down a lot of it on this channel. Obviously, he has the boxing association with the MMA fighters, the best in the world, Darren Till, Tyson Fury in boxing. There's going to be a lot to this story.
Well, that's a question that I'd like to know.
So I think I would have done a lot of good for boxing, because I wasn't in boxing, launder money, as they say. I never did that whatsoever. And I think I would have given a lot back to boxing and helped a lot of people,
And you've been fast-tracked now in the Dubai courts. Do you think there's something more sinister behind that? Because that's not obviously the way it works there. It could have potentially taken months, but with you, it only took a few days. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a deal being done,
Do you actually think you'll get a fair trial, or do you think they've already sort of made up their mind?
I think I've already got life in prison, James. I think it's just we're going to go through the dance now, and the circus, and then the character assassination even more now of me and my family, and that's what they'll do, because they have to reinforce their narrative and what they've said and done over the last 10 years or even more. So I don't think I'll get a fair trial whatsoever. I don't think I have a hope of getting a fair trial. What they know about me, James, is only what they've been fed. It's been created of who I am by the media. And now I have no other option than to speak out and put my side forward of everything, And hopefully then I get a fair trial, which I don't think I will. But maybe I'll get a fair trial, and if everything is open, and let the public see all evidence and everything. And if all the evidence is there that they say is against me, then I should go to prison.
I'm not sure what kind of public access to this trial or information we're actually going to get, whether we're going to get everything or just the bits released in the media. High profile, respected, credited outlets within the Irish press, maybe a few abroad, are going to even be allowed to the court case. And that's why he's basically saying he might not get a fair trial, because a lot of this is going to be done behind closed doors. With the court situation, it even says here he would almost certainly be tried before the Special Criminal Court, and that's a decision for the DPP, but cases involving organised crime of this nature is a standard approach. In terms of sentencing, it depends on the specific charges and how the case proceeds. If we look at comparable cases such as Sean McGovern, we're talking about a potential life sentence in a range of 20 to 30 years for directing a criminal organisation. But they also say it's important to stress nothing is guaranteed, and extradition can be challenged, and even in Ireland there's further legal challenges. We've seen cases before where individuals were extradited and ultimately acquitted. And also his father and brother are living their lives. They still both have that $5 million bounty from America on their heads as well. It's only Daniel right now has been captured. It seems like he is going to release this full interview, James English, so we can hear his full story. He thinks he's been the scapegoat and set up here. James English put out a statement saying they've been trying their hardest to stop this interview going out, but I can assure you it's going out no matter what. For years, the media have written thousands of stories about Daniel Kinahan, a man who has never been convicted of a criminal offence as things stand today, and has not yet been formally charged before an Irish court. For the first time, Daniel Kinahan is going to be telling his story in his own words on my podcast, and the media are having a meltdown. For years, they've had their say about him. Now he's going to get to have his.